So we've had almost 24 hours now to digest the Battlefield 5 reveal, and I was lucky enough yesterday to sit down for an interview with Daniel Berlin, who is the design director for Battlefield 5. There were some things that Daniel couldn't answer, but there is a ton of detailed information in here that he shares with us, and I picked his brain on why and how some of the new design choices have been made for this game. There's some very insightful stuff in here. I know you guys want to see and hear this kind of information, so let's check it out. Obviously you guys are going for this whole new, let's say, more hardcore approach with the attrition. No automatic health regen to an extent, a very limited amounts of ammo when you spawn in. What were the main reasons for taking the game in that direction, swinging it a bit more onto the hardcore scale?
I mean, so the way we're looking at attrition in general is that, like I said in presentation, we're saying that you're going to spawn capable, but you're not going to spawn fully stocked. But the general mentality is that we want to get away from that kind of like the mindless grind that I mentioned as well. Just like spawn, run, die. Really want to get the tactical mindset back into the second to second and give you that meta layer of resource management and mindfulness of your resources as you play. And again, the attrition is set up in such a fashion so like if you're a completely new player, you know, someone who goes in, has an engagement, maybe comes out of that engagement on top, then has another one and then dies, he's not going to necessarily notice it. But more veteran players such as yourself that have a lot of success on the battlefield, they will come into the system to a much more extent because they will have significantly more engagement where they will come out on top, and then they will start to have to be more mindful of the resources.
And do you think that's making the game less accessible or more difficult, let's say?
I don't think so. I think in general, as we're seeing many other titles that are doing this successfully, and I think in general, gamers can handle this. I don't think that's just like, hey, you have to be mindful of your resources now. You have to be mindful of your ammo. That's going to be a complete blocker. I think, you know, gamers, we shouldn't underestimate them. You know, they can handle this. It's a tactical layer that we really want to infuse. So and again, the balancing aspect of it is meant to put it in such a position that the most noobish player won't necessarily be hit with it super hard, but it's more like when you're super successful, you're going to be starting to see it more and more and more and more. Let's make a fucking decision. It's just like, it's a squad game. Let's lean into it. Let's make, if we say it's squad play and squad play means something, then that dependency on the people around you, it has to be there, you know? Yeah.
Suppression.
Mm-hmm.
Can we go into detail about that? How is that going to work in BF5?
I mean, in general, we're looking at the system, but we're not going to go into exact detail right now because it's still something we're working on. You
didn't really go that much into 3D spotting and the way the minimap works. Can you talk much about that?
I mean, you'll see it at EA Play. That's the thing. But we have nothing specific to announce on that right now. But the general mentality is that I want to move us away from the, you know, like I said, peek around a corner, spot. Your finger shouldn't be resting on the spotting button. Your finger should be resting on your trigger. To be able, you scan the actual world. You don't scan for icons. I mean, icons and UI are great. They're a great way to, as an additional help for communication. But if you can handle that communication in the game, I think that's significantly better.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, putting the reliance back on actually having to use your eyes and ears rather than just staring at a minimap.
Yeah. The general mentality is you're not playing the UI, you're playing the world and you're playing the game. That's it.
You talked a little bit about fortifications too. So
yes.
One worry I have with those is that they might be a bit cookie cutter.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain like how players are going to use the fortifications as a, let's say, a team play mechanic? Like if you capture a flag, if I fortify that flag, how is that going to affect that?
So the mentality here that we're doing is that it comes down to the squad play as well. So when we set up the fortifications, when we place the fortifications around a flag, for example, we're setting them up in a fashion. The amount of them and the time it takes to build for them should be catered and balanced towards a squad moving in to a point and then fortifying that point. So a squad playing well together can fully fortify a flag. So they can move in, turtle it, and basically own that space. That's the mentality in general for fortifications.
You mentioned picking up stuff from enemies. So if I kill an enemy, if it's a support player, will they just drop ammo, or is there a chance that they might drop health as well?
This is, I mean, I would love your guys' feedback on this, actually. Right now, they drop ammo, but this is something that is still up in the air. We're still designing this. And I mean, like, the general mentality is that if we give too much, the attrition dies. You know, so we want to keep it on that perfect scale where you're kind of like you're on your toes. You got to be mindful of it. But again, I mean, these are potentially great ideas. But right now, we are focusing on the ammo bit of it. But there's nothing saying that we can't expand this in the future. But again, nothing is locked in terms of this feature. So
okay. And in the trailer, we saw the guy throwing back a grenade. So what else can you do with grenades apart from throwing them back? Is there any other interesting things there?
Well, so what we're announcing as of now is that you can throw back a grenade, like you saw in the trailer. You can actually capture it in the air and chuck it back as well before it lands, and you can shoot it out of the sky as it's coming at you.
So you could, as a grenade's coming towards you, you can press a key that grabs it, and then you can throw it back.
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome. So what about like rolling grenades?
That's nothing we're going to be talking about right now.
Okay, cool. Weapon recoil, can you go much into why that's changed and how it's changed?
Sorry, what's that?
The way that the weapon recoil works now, it looks like you've moved away from the random bullet spread that you had in BF1, and you've gone to a much more predictable recoil system in this game. So why has that happened, and how is that going to affect gameplay?
I think why it's happening is one is because of the physical representation, meaning, and also the things I mentioned, that we want to move away from abstractions. And I think if I aim my weapon at someone and I pull the trigger, the player is doing everything right in that moment. We shouldn't penalize the player by saying, yeah, you shot him in the head, but the bullet deviated and it went away. That's not how we want to do this. So basically, where you shoot is where you aim, and then you'll have actual recoil on the weapon, which you can then mitigate by player's skill. So that's the whole mentality of what you see is what you get, and weapons should pretty much function like the way you would expect them to work in a believable fashion. So that's the general mentality.
So kind of every weapon has a unique recoil pattern that can be learnt and mastered.
Exactly. So as you saw in the video that we just showed, it's just like that particular weapon is obviously a burst weapon because the first initial bullets are controlled and you know how they're going to react. There's not going to be any randomness to that. But after that, you're going to see additional kick. You're going to see the weapon moving more, and it's going to be much more difficult to control. So then you're going to learn, this is a burst fire weapon. Do I like burst fire weapons? Yes, I do. Okay, great. This is a weapon for me. Maybe if that's not a weapon for you, you can go into other types of classes and other types of weapons. But yes, exactly like you say, every weapon is going to be unique in that sense, and it's going to have their own types of like learning curve for you as a player to be able to kind of master a specific weapon.
Okay, and just following along from that, so visual recoil is completely gone, but is the new weapon system, do the bullets originate from the barrel of the gun or still from the center of the screen?
Oh, that's not, we're not going to touch upon that right now. That's too specific.
Right. And Ryan mentioned bayonet charges. Are they going to be back in the game?
So what we're saying basically is that there's one part of a weapon progression which is like the place where you go in and you customize your weapon to work and play exactly the way you want it to play. And there's one section which is the visual customization where you can make it look exactly how you want it to look. However, exactly what goes into which tree and which abilities for every weapon, that's not decided yet. So we're still exploring what every weapon should have. So I can't confirm anything on that right now.
Okay. Can you talk about the sweet spot mechanic for snipers? Is that still in the game?
I can't say anything about that right now. You're going to have to wait. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm just trying to find things that you can say to me.
Yeah, I know. It's a jungle.
In the trailer, at the start, when they enter the house, you actually see some bullets flying through the wall. Yep. And you mentioned that there's going to be bullet penetration in the game now. So if you could just elaborate on that a bit, like what kind of surfaces can you shoot through? And also, if I'm hitting someone that's behind a wall, am I going to get a hit marker for hitting that person?
Yes. So I think that comes down to the same mentality. If there's a dude in the house and I chuck a grenade through the window and I don't see him, but I do damage to that player, I'm going to get a hit indicator. And I mean, if I was shooting through a wall and I didn't get any hit indicators, I wouldn't know what I'm doing. So yes, if you shoot someone through a wall, you will have a hit indicator just like you were shooting that person without a wall in between them.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that that might be a little bit abusable, though? If you could, because you're essentially getting information for something that you can't see, if you get what I mean.
I get what you mean. I mean, again, these things are highly tweakable and highly testable. But so again, these are design tweaks that we can go back and forth on however we feel like. But the system is still being worked on. And we're going to put it in a way where we feel like it's not abusable, but still gives that extra edge to someone who decides to be stationary, because stationary is not necessarily a good thing in Battlefield. So we want to kind of be like, hey, if you're going to go stationary with an LMG, we're going to give you that extra power to just be able to basically rip through covers. And like to your other question in terms of like what specific covers, that's still up for tweaking and designing. We're basically going through that now to kind of see where we want to put this. But in general, we kind of lean on the general Battlefield destruction language. So it's like if I shoot a weapon at a surface and I would expect my bullet to go through that surface, it will. If I shoot a weapon at a surface and I don't expect it's going to go through that surface, like a really thick metal wall, it won't.
So it's just going to be common sense.
It's going to be common sense. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. So you also showed us some really beautiful new movement animations where the players would, slip and smack into their wall with their weight, and the way they would kind of wade through the water. One worry I have with that is that if I'm an enemy player and I'm watching someone, are they going to slip on my game, or is that just for people on your team? Like, how does that work? Because I foresee that there might be some annoying circumstances where you're following a player with a sniper rifle, they slip up, they play a random animation, and is that going to affect their hitboxes? Like, what are you going to do to mitigate that kind of stuff?
So right now this is in complete investigations, because we're getting more and more of these things in, and we're kind of seeing now what that effect on gameplay is. So it's up to us to kind of decide, like, hey, do we want this to be a allied only type of feature? You only see it on friendlies, or do you want to see it on enemies as well? So we haven't really decided which way we want to go there. But in terms of the hitbox, I think if I don't think it's a physical game if you can shoot someone that is currently slipping and you're actually missing his body, but you're still getting hits. That would be weird. So it's going to be more down to kind of like determining where we position this feature in that sense. Do we want it to be allies only? Do we want it to be everyone? But that's still up for discussion. We haven't really settled in which way we want to go. We want to try it out more, basically.
Yeah, my preference would be to just have it as allies only, just for a bit of immersion. Because, I don't think that you'd want stuff like that affecting gameplay, because you mentioned that the first-person perspective always stays the same.
Yeah, so these particular things are things that we want to do to push immersion. Like I mentioned, those first moments in a conquest match where we're playing operations, when you kind of like just rushing together, to have that kind of ambiance of like people slipping, people honking over, and all these things, just like to basically make it look more alive in general.
Is the game going to have dedicated servers?
I cannot comment on anything like that right now.
Nothing like, you can't talk about RSP, rent a server program, or?
Nope, nothing like that right now. Sorry.
Okay. Any changes to the melee combat or takedowns you can talk about?
I think you should stay tuned for EA Play, but we don't have anything to announce at this moment in regards to that.
Okay, cool. In the trailer, we saw some diving onto the back. I'm a bit concerned that there might be a lot of dolphin diving in this game. What mechanics are in place to stop people doing that horrible dolphin diving that we used to see in Battlefield 2?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, we are I can't talk about details on this, like what we're doing, but we're super aware of this. And again, we're never going to be putting the player in a position where we can see repetitive, actions, just like diving, getting up. That should never be something that you use as a tactic to advance on the battlefield. I'm just going to dodge bullets for 7 seconds by doing dolphin dive, climb backwards, get up. That's not where that's not where we're going with this.
From my perspective, based on what you've shown us and the reveal trailer, there seems to be a ton of new features in here that if they're implemented correctly, will really differentiate this game from previous Battlefield titles.
Yep.
Like, is there anything you want to say in regards to that? Like, why is this not just BF 1.5? Because going from World War One to World War Two, I think a lot of people will be looking at it like that.
I think it's from our perspective when we were kind of setting up, like, what are we going to do with this game? I mean, we kind of settled quite quickly on, hey, if we should push innovation broadly and let's do it in design a lot, because I want to push the second to second choice that you can do. Just adding more abilities and more capabilities to the soldier will just cater for those player moments when I can actually choose to do different things. And I think that is actually, once you actually sit down and you get your hands on the game and you play it for an extended amount of time, all of these changes are going to be the thing that really resonates and makes this game feel significantly different from previous titles.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And just a couple more questions.
Yeah, for sure.
One regarding the squad revive. I love the fact that you can revive squad members now.
Yeah.
And keeping the squad together as much as possible. So is the squad revive going to be a longer animation than if you were to use a medic?
Yes. So again, this is not an intent to devalue the purpose of the medic, but again, it's about that, like you said, being able to keep your squad staying together, keep the squad alive. So it will be significantly longer. It's only contained within the squad. And also, a medic can bring someone back to full health right after a revive, versus a body revive will be something that's just like, something you don't necessarily do in combat, but something you do in your squad. It's like you've had an engagement in a flag, you came out on top, two of your guys start to build fortifications, and the other guy goes like, oh, we don't have a medic, but I'm still going to bring back the support player. So it's kind of something that you do in the lulls, if you know what I mean. And versus the medic is much more capable to actually be able to execute faster revives in combat, and also bring people back to life. And he can do that team wide, so he's not restricted to only reviving squad mates.
And how does that dragging animation work? I mean, is it contextual based on what limb you're closest to, or? It's
the same as the revive. So like we aim to make these like super snappy. I think that goes across everything when we're talking physicality, when we're adding more physical interaction in terms of animations. The key here is to not deteriorate agency and gameplay. So we always continuously iterate on these animations. Just like the first iteration was just like too slow, can't attach from this angle, sitting too high up, make him Hulk more. He can attach from all sides. Just make sure that it's snappy and that gameplay comes first in this regard. Yeah.
So can all of those new animations that you're adding be cancelled at any moment?
Yeah, so revive, you can cancel out of it at any time. You can move your camera around while you're in the revive to look around to see if there's any enemies close by. So you can just be like, oh, I'm going to revive you. Oh, taking damage. Bye. Hop out.
That's cool. I like that. So you're not... I suppose you're making the commitment...
We don't lock you into animations. That would be terrible.
You're making a commitment to revive, but at any moment, if you need to, you can back out.
Exactly.
So when my squad mate or teammate is on the ground... Are they going to be moving around to signify they can be revived? I mean, you showed us that concept video where the guy held his hand out. Like, how's that going to look? And if I'm an enemy player, will I be able to finish that player off, let's say?
No, so the way it works is exactly like you said. So when you're down, if you decide to call for help, you're going to be announcing that to people around you. But you can't shoot enemy players that are on the ground. That's an actual war crime. So you can, that's no. So we're not doing that. But yes, you'll see both. As you can actually see in the trailer as well, when you're darting up the stairs. So there's a guy laying in the stairs. So you can see him in third person. He's actually screaming, "Help me! Help me!" So it's both something that is projected in first person for the player executing the action, but also for people around you.
And will enemies see that too, or just teammates?
That's still we're investigating that right now to see where we want to land it. So that's still nothing we've settled on, but it's something we're aware of, and that we're gonna make a decision on. And again, gameplay and making sure that it's a readable game that makes sense. That's gonna be the thing that kind of tips the choice there.
Right. And like, is there anything that you'd want to say, like, to the Battlefield community about this game? Like, any key messaging or ideas or thoughts that you wanted to put out there?
I mean, I think in general, it's just the immersion that you get in general when playing this game. We're really upping that, really, really pushing the immersion and the connection and the depth and the physicality that you get while playing the game. I mean, like you say, I mentioned the physical interaction with the revive, physical interaction with picking up med crates and so on and so forth. It's like that we're moving away from extraction. So just really, really pushing the immersion from everything in terms of like, how it feels when you plow through a house using a tank, that there's actually resistance as you push through. You see the actual parts hanging after you push through, and they fall down afterwards. And of course, if they fall down and you get hit with it in the head, it's going to kill you. So just the fact that we're pushing immersion, and in general, in terms of like our take on World War II, that unique take on World War II, that we're going towards the unseen, the untold, to make us really, really like this is DICE's and this is Battlefield's lens on World War II. Definitely those things, and of course, let's not forget about the journey through Tides of War, which is a huge addition that just takes you on a journey. And as you will play the game, you will go to different theaters of war, and we will continuously push in new experiences through the Tides of War, and not just lean into like, hey, it's a map and it's a vehicle, but like when we take a different place, we're going to look at complete experiences and make sure that the vehicles that we build and the maps that we build and the player archetypes and everything that we put in, they're all matched and they all work together to bring a complete experience.
So okay, cool.
I think the light went out. Oh, it's back.
Hey, there we go.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. So, I mean, I don't want to take up much more of your time because I'm sure you've got other stuff. It's been 24 minutes now, so
it's fine. We can do one more quick. I'm getting hands here waving at me from that side.
Okay, cool. So, if you had to describe Battlefield 5 in 3 words, what words would you use?
Immersive, definitely immersive. Immersive and tactical and strategic. That was 3 words. I want to kind of clump them together as one.
Uh-huh.
But then the fact that you can actually just go on this journey, that's really, really important. I think that we're going to take you on this journey through the war, and in general, I think the squad play is also something that the focus we have on squad play, that is something that really, really changes how you play this game.
And I think a lot of the community have been, wanting to see Battlefield go back to that.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, that's one of the things that has been inspiring me as well. It's just like in sense of this, really go back to our roots, because we are going back to the setting where it all started. So with that mindset as well, let's go there. Let's make it more tactical. Let's make the the dependency on classes more a thing. Let's get that strategic mindfulness of how you actually play matter more in multiplayer matches. And then again, of course, the unseen, untold. I mean, there's like you saw in the presentation, it's just like there's a lot of depictions of this era, but just like we did in Battlefield 1, when we kind of just like we just like, oh yeah, it's World War 1, and then you're just like, oh shit, the desert. Oh, so what happening here? What there in World War 1? We were doing the same. We're taking the same approach to this game in terms of like showing you things you weren't expecting to seeing, while still obviously allowing you to have iconic, weaponry, iconic experiences that are World War II. But we're kind of like turning it on its head a little bit and mixing it up, and I think that's something that's going to be really resonating with players in the community.
So there we go, guys. I didn't really have much more time to spend with Daniel here. He had other interviews coming up, and I'd already taken up way more time than I should have done. But lots of great information and insight there into the direction that DICE are going with this game. We didn't get this kind of detail at the reveal, sadly, but hopefully this informs you guys on what to expect from the game. A big thanks to Daniel too for taking the time out to do this interview. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe if you want to see more content for Battlefield 5, and I'll see you in the next one.